Okay, we're into Module 6, which starts the evaluation chapter. I know most of you haven't taken the research classes, qualitative, quantitative, or the mixed methods. So this is going to be kind of an introduction. But with running programs and intervention, there's two types of evaluations you need to do. There's the process evaluation. So in the discussion, I want you to focus on the process evaluation, such as internal and external reviewers. So when you run a program, many of us take a step back. Did it go well? How did I do? And you have the team who is actually running it sit down and do that. And sometimes you even ask your participants of, can we have a focus group, or can I give you a survey? How did you like the program? So it's more of a satisfaction thing from your participants, your consumers, however you want to term them. But you also might want to have an external reviewer, and this is kind of at a higher level of someone who has a little less bias, because participants might want to be pleasing you, or we might be seeing the glass half full or half empty. So sometimes we have a bias, we want things to work, we understand why they don't work, but sometimes bringing an external reviewer sometimes helps. So you could look around of, who possibly can be my external reviewer? Some of you might have access to that, some of you might not. But if you did, who might that be? What would they be looking for? So that's your discussion, and I think it's a good discussion to have as a group, because you could kind of kick things around and learn from each other. The assignment, you guys turned in the intros. I am in the process of reading them and getting you some feedback. But the method section, I want you to focus on several components. The protocol. So I want you to, I think you need to do participants. Oh, sample recruitment. Okay. So looking at what I told you to do. All right. So I want you to write the method section in the part of knowing your participants. Who are your participants? You have to describe this in a very researcher-based way. Not, oh, I'll be using my kids from the Boys and Girls Club. You'll just have to say 50 youth aged 12 to 14 from the local Boys and Girls Club. That's okay, but you really want to make it third person. You don't want to make it personal. You want to describe them. If you have gender or race differences in there, you kind of want to highlight that if that's something that you're going after, if that was a recruitment requirement. I did a study with the Up Band. I actually have one on, and we were recruiting African-American females 18 to 24 years old. We were looking for young females, so I needed to describe them. I recruited from general health classes, and I had to tell how I recruited, so we put it on their learning management system. We made announcements in the class. We posted bulletins around the campus. So you need to tell the researchers, how are you going to get people into your study? Most of us already have an in, which is okay. It's a convenience sample, so you might want to highlight what kind of sampling. Is it convenience? Is it random? Is it, however you're going to do that. Most of us are using the convenience sample. And then describe your protocol. How are things going to do? What steps are you going to take? So after your participants are selected or registered for the program, how are you going to run your intervention? If you're doing an education piece, if you're doing a physical activity piece, if you're doing a physical activity piece, who is running it? What criteria do they have? If you're doing nutrition, who's running that nutrition? So you don't have to tell me the name of the person, but a registered dietitian is going to be implementing the nutrition education portion, which is a 45-minute session. So you kind of got to give me the feel and the scope of what that program looks like with the protocol. And then your measurement section. What are you going to measure? So all of us are going to do demographics. So there's a demographic section of what our demographics we'll be taking, looking at age, gender, economic level, not quite sure what you're going to collect for demographics, and then each of the measures. So remember, this goes back to our objectives. If you are looking at changing knowledge, we should be measuring knowledge, and we should also have a good measurement for it. So and if it's a survey that you made up, if it's a test that you made up, that's okay. Then you need to say a researcher designed test on that. If it was an attitude test, we need to say where that's from and any kind of information about that. Any validity or reliability from previous studies would be wonderful to put in there. Again, I keep on saying this over and over. I sound like a broken record. Is pull those previous research papers out that you said, wow, this really looks like my paper, or something I hope my paper looks like, and follow that as a model. So look at pull out a couple of your articles and look at the methods section of that, and you'll see, oh, that's how they describe their instrument. Use that as a model. So I don't think we went into how you're going to run your stats. I think we're going to, oh yeah, we did. So you need a stats section. So how are you going to analyze? And this might be review for some, and it might be a little bit over the heads of those who haven't had research in a very long time. But remember, if you're just going to look at numbers and say, well, you know, you just want to count 50% of my students achieve the knowledge level, that's just plain descriptives. If you are going to compare and say, you know, that they statistically improved, significantly improved, then you have to start either using t-test or ANOVAs if you have the same group pre-post. If you want to look at other factors in there, I think we're going to kind of keep it simple. A lot of times if you do a big study and you have a lot of participants, sometimes you want to look as, well, was it different for different genders, or was it different by age, or was it different by some kind of demographic or some kind of independent variable? Then you'd be running ANOVAs. But right now, most of ours probably won't. We just want to know, did it work? And was that change? We might see a change in knowledge from maybe the average score was 21 on a test, and after they did your program, now it's 26. Is that significantly different? And remember, with program recruitment and running an evaluation, you've got to have good numbers, because sometimes if you don't have enough numbers, we can't tell if it's significant or not. So if you have 10 people go through your program, it's only 10 people, we only have pre-post numbers, that's going to be really hard to run. There are ways to run it. There's z-tests, or there's different things that we can do with smaller numbers, but still reviewers are going to say, well, that's not really applicable to everyone. But what might be applicable is that whole process, that you were doing something innovative, you were doing something new, and that knowledge right there is pretty important to share. So don't cut yourself short just because your numbers might not show that they, you know, drop body weight or whatever your measure was. The process and is this going to work? Maybe this will set me up for a better study in the future. That's what we're trying to gain here from this experience. So good luck with that. Send me an email. This one is tough. So if you need a little bit of help or you want to send me a preview, go for it. I'll read it over. I'll see you next week.